The China Report for Friday, May 10, 2013. Can Taiwan pull China toward democracy? For decades China threatened military action to retake Taiwan. But after Ma took office, those threats began to recede, and commerce began picking up. This still worries many Taiwanese, especially opposition Democratic Progressive Party officers who call for maintaining a tough line with China. With tens of thousands of Chinese now visiting Taiwan, Taiwanese leaders hope these people offer a shining ray of hope to the 1.3 billion Chinese people on the mainland, as Ma put it. After all, Taiwan, with its 23 million people, is a thriving, prosperous, liberal democracy in every sense of the word, the first Chinese democracy in history. Isn't that what most mainland Chinese actually want? Most Chinese simply aren't happy with the status quo. Even rich people no longer trust the government. They're sending their money out of the state billions of dollars each year. So the question arises, how long can the communist government survive in this atmosphere of withering public discontent? Should China try to feed itself? For China's leaders, there was one problem in an otherwise benign inflation report for April. First, the good news: the consumer price index rose 2.4%, about in line with economists' expectations. While inflation accelerated from 2.1% in March, the April figure is still well below the government's target of 3.5% for the year. So what's the catch? Food prices. With vegetables getting more expensive, the cost of eating jumped 4% last month, compared with an increase of 2.7% in March. The rising cost of food could create more difficulties in the coming months, the People's Bank of China warned yesterday. The Chinese government is well aware of the political sensitivity of food, which is one reason the country is sticking to a policy that promotes self-sufficiency. China may not overtake America this century after all. Doubts are growing about whether China can pass the U.S. to become the world's biggest economy this century amid warnings that the country's 30-year miracle is nearing exhaustion. As of last year, U.S. GDP was roughly $15.7 trillion, compared to $8 trillion for China on a nominal exchange rate basis, the measure that matters for gauging economic power. China's output is 75 PC of U.S. levels on a purchasing power parity PPP basis, but even on this measure the Chinese surpasso is looking less certain. Clyde Prestowitz, an arch U.S. declinist who has just thrown in the towel, says China may never catch the U.S. on any relevant measure. That is a stretch, but not impossible on a forecastable horizon. Keep in mind the next time you are in China and find yourself choking on the foul air that the things making the air foul are counted as positives for GDP. If you adjust Chinese GDP for environmental degradation and for over-investment in things that will never be used, it falls in size by 30–50%. China's economy unexpectedly stumbles again. After a powerful recovery through the autumn and winter from a V-shaped downturn last summer, China's economy is unexpectedly faltering once again. Exports are weak. The country's domestic economy is still growing mostly because of huge increases in lending by state-controlled banks and a surge in off-balance sheet lending. Consumer spending is rising, but not fast enough to offset weakness in other sectors. Just how will China keep growth going in the next few years? Roads, bridges and buildings that are not needed. Endless construction projects are a safe bet. Why change now? That's the China Report for today. Zaijian.